Hello and welcome to the Easily Excitable podcast. My name is Topham, and this week I'm going to talk about my favourite podcast. I'm pretty sure it's my favourite podcast. It's called This Is Rad. It's done by a guy called Kyle Clark and his friend Matthew Burnside, and I've been listening to it for probably 3 years at this point, after discovering Kyle on the Nerdist podcast, specifically on the episode where they interviewed Henry Rollins. It's a shame that Nerdist podcast kind of went away, but oh well. Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, I've got my podcast. This is rad," and I was just like, "Yeah, why don't I check that out?" And I am so glad I did. So they are very positive people, and they just want to talk about things that they really like, which is awesome. I'm very much a fan of things that are positive, and it's definitely a podcast that I enjoy listening to. The podcasts do tend to run quite long. By that I mean 2.5, 3 hours regularly. But they start off by sharing what they've done in the week before and like have an intro section that can run up to like 45 minutes to an hour as well. So you've got like 45 minutes to an hour followed by an hour and a half podcast on a single topic that they choose. And the intros tend to like go through what their weekly rads are or what they're really enjoying within the most recent week. And then you've got the main bulk of the show where they talk about a single topic for a certain amount of time. They do get sidetracked so much, and yeah, they just get distracted and go on tangents. And Carl Clark's comedian. He usually has a lot of comedian friends on, and other podcasts from the area that they live, which is in Los Angeles. And then Burnside, I don't know, he's a funny guy. They all started as nerd turns, and they like have this camaraderie between them. But it's great to listen to. And they just go on these topics. They have series that they do. At the moment, they're in a Battlestar Galactica one, but like they're spread out, and all in all, like, yeah, it's probably my favorite podcast just because it's so positive, and there's like, yeah, they just have a lot to share, a lot of things to talk about, and when they do talk about a topic that they're passionate about, which is nearly everything, they can talk for a long time. The fact that it's funny as well, and they're all like having a laugh while everything's going on is just absolutely class, and it just makes it really enjoyable. It's something that I really appreciate. Like, I'll listen to it when I'm driving and just be like, yeah, it's a great podcast. And like the thing about podcasts as well is that they should be. I don't know. This one isn't really the best. I'm not the best at talking, but a good podcast is a podcast that's a conversation between two people that you don't feel like you need to interject in. So that, like, their podcast with all the riffs and bits, okay, from now and again I'll shout at the radio or whatever, like wherever I'm listening to it, and be like, no, you need to think about this. But like really there's very few times I do that. But to me, that's what makes a good podcast. You don't want to be interjecting into what someone else is saying. But yeah, so yeah, This Is Rad is probably my favorite podcast at the moment. Check it out, and I will continue to listen to it until, yeah, I don't know when. It's going to eternally keep me entertained. So yeah, thank you all for listening. Have an exciting week. Goodbye.